roommates. Welcome. Today on the show, we revisit A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. So 5, 6, grab your crucifix and join us.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. This is Brian.
And this is Christina. Welcome.
We are talking today about A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes, it's our Halloween episode.
Oh yeah, it is, I know.
Yeah. Halloween right around the corner.
1984.
Yep, 1984.
Wes Craven, writer-director, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, writer, I knew he directed it, but I think he wrote it too. Interesting. Oh, good. No, I was asking you. So
I was just going to say, because it's our Halloween episode, we've already revisited Friday the 13th.
Yes.
And we revisited Halloween. And this is sort of like the trifecta. Like, when I think about horror movies from the 80s, this is like the three that I always think about.
1,000%, yeah.
Right? And so now we moved on to A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, you have these, I mean, it's interesting in the fact that you have these, these horror villains that carry on. Like, they're often the only recurring character in these horror movies.
Right, well, everybody else is dead,
right? So, it's just an interesting thing. It's like, oh yeah, it's like, are you a fan of Jason or Michael or Freddy? But so 1984, what was the first time you saw this movie?
I'm sure I saw it in the movies. Because
really?
back then, so I'm not a huge horror movie person now. And I don't know if that speaks to the type of horror movies around now, or I'm just like older and I just don't have like the stomach for it, or just don't have the desire to be scared. But I used to love them, and we used to go like midnight movies in Dedham.
Wow. And
watch like scary movies, and I believe this was one of them. And
because you would have been about 17 at this point, 16 or 17 in 84?
Yeah, probably 84.
84?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, about 16, 17. So, I don't think, I've never been turned away because I was too young for our movie.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen, right?
Or you just buy a ticket for one movie and you sneak into the other theater.
Right, yeah. But I don't even think I've ever had to do that. I still think it's usually like high school kids that are at the register anyway, right?
Right, yeah.
Anyway, so I'm sure I saw it in the movies, and I remember this being terrifying, this movie. And because of the whole idea of this, he comes to you in your dream. That's usually where, I'm a good sleeper. I'm a great sleeper. I love my sleep. Mm-hmm. And the fact that, like, you can't go to sleep or you're going to get murdered, that's terrifying. And I remember that being like, oh my gosh, like, anything goes in a dream. And it's so, like, such a cool concept for a horror movie. So I remember that. I remember it being terrifying, and I also remember it being entertaining. Like, I feel like it was maybe the first horror movie where the villain was also had like a little bit of a personality. Mm-hmm. Right? Like a little kind of funny and a little sarcastic.
Speaks.
He speaks.
Yeah, in terms of
but like he has actually a personality and not just like a shadowy figure in the back. Mm-hmm. Whatever. But anyway, so that's my take. What about you? When did you first see it?
Yeah, so thoughts? I know I've talked about this before in the other horror episodes that we have, but my sister loved horror movies, and we would go to my dad's on the weekend, and so we'd rent a bunch of VHS tapes. He didn't care what we watched, and for better or worse. And I am pretty sure that I watched this, like, probably with my sister. I probably watched this. I remembered almost every minute of it, but I remember probably watch it through like closed fingers. You know, it's like that. Like, oh, I'm watching. I'm like watching like my toe that's like up while I'm watching the screen. But I absolutely 1,000% remember that final shot where something happens to the mom outside the door. And that is so burned in my brain from when I was, maybe I guess I was 12. Well, it would have been 12 in the movie, so like 14, I guess, when I watched it.
Sure.
But that image, that's one of those images that I'm like, holy fuck, mother. Like it's terrifying. I'm assuming you wouldn't listen to this without seeing the movie, but like basically the mother gets ripped through the door, like the window in the front door by Freddy's hand.
Freddy grabs her.
So at the same time, it just wasn't my thing. Like, similar. I'm not a horror movie person, but I love the original Halloween. That's one of my favorite movies anyway.
Of all time, yeah.
Of all time. And I think it's just so well done. So this is a little different, and to be honest, I didn't, even then, the thing about he sort of hunts you in your sleep and in your dreams. I don't know. I just wasn't like, I think in a weird way, it was less scary as a concept versus something in real life. Yeah, it's just a little weird. I don't know why. Maybe because we've talked about this before, where it's like when you're 14, everything's kind of cheesy, but horror movies, I really didn't, they did scare me. But yeah, I think Freddy did scare me as a character, I think because he was like the most human, if you will, of Michael, and Jason, because he talked and he wore like, I guess they all wear regular clothes, but because he could morph.
He's
and
more
stuff
about
like that. It felt, and I think that's part of it. Part of it then too was like it felt very unfair. It was a bit like brutal. I'm trying not to jump too ahead into how I feel now, but there's a brutalness to him because he does talk. There's a thinking going on in there, and he can morph and change and reach, and his arms grow, and so. I don't know if I was... Oh, God. Scared's the wrong word. It's more just, like, disturbed by it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So, how about now, Christina?
So, I think... So, my memory of this was funny. I really felt... I was looking forward to more of the comedy from him. And I think that came out more in some of the sequels.
Absolutely.
So it was surprising to me. I'm like, oh, he really doesn't have a huge personality in this particular movie. But so listen to what happened to me. I think you're gonna get a kick out of this one. Okay. So I watched, and I remembered like who would star, like Heather Vanderkamp. I think is her name, right?
Langerkamp.
I think it's a V. Vanderkamp.
No, it's you're thinking of Lisa Vanderpump. Wait a minute. Oh,
Go
God.
look it up. Go look it up.
Maybe you're right.
And Johnny Depp.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
So, good. You look it up while I tell you my little story. So, I rented this movie from the library, right? A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
It came. I had it. I put it in.
Heather Langenkamp.
Langenkamp. Okay, I stand corrected.
Heather Langenkamp.
You are right, Brian. Thank you for looking that up. So, I knew that she was in it. I knew that Johnny Depp was in it, right? So, I had like this idea. I had this movie, I put it on, I read it up, whatever. And sometimes I'll look it up as well at the same time. You know what I mean? Like just sort of. And I'm watching this, and the opening scene, I had no recollection of it all. I'm like, that's so weird. Like I had no recollection, but sometimes that does happen. And then the second scene, I'm like, well, this is kind of weird. I'm waiting for Heather to show up because I knew she was the star. I'm like, what's really taking a long time for her to show up? So I'm looking it up, and I'm like, do I have the stars mixed up? And I look down, and I'm like, nope, that's the right stars. I look at the cover of the DVD, A Nightmare on Elm Street. It's there. It's A Nightmare on Elm Street. I look at the back, and now I can't really read without glasses these days. I need Emily to read it for me. So I can't really read the description of it, but it's like, it doesn't have anything about a sequel or anything.
Okay.
I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I'm like, all right, maybe it just takes a little while for her to be introduced. Okay? I'm watching this thing for probably 20 to 25 minutes. Still no Heather. Still no Johnny Depp. I'm like, something is up. I don't understand. I even looked, I'm like, maybe they put the wrong DVD player in my DVD case.
Yeah.
I opened up the thing. It just says Nightmare on Elm Street. And then the tagline is "Never sleep again,"
Yeah.
right? I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. It wasn't until, so listen to this. So then I'm like, fine, I'm still watching it. There's a scene. She goes up into the attic to look at old pictures.
Yeah.
And the boxes to look into our old pictures are labeled 1997, 1996. I'm like, what the hell is happening? So apparently, in 2010, they released A Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah. I was very unaware of this. Yeah. This is the movie I ended up renting from the library. I wasted a half hour of my life trying to figure this out. But I mean, for my credit, I did know something was up. Like I recognized it almost. I'm like, where are the stars I remember? So that was like crazy. So now I'm like, what the hell? So now now I have to rent it on Vudu. So I rented it on Vudu. And the whole thing too is I felt like I was under a time crunch because I wanted to watch this movie during the day, like in the morning, as opposed to at night, because I was afraid I was going to get scared. And Emily and Matt were out. And I'm like, obviously I don't want Emily in the house when I'm watching this. Right. So I'm like, I felt like I was time crunched anyway, and now I've already wasted a half hour. Oh my God. It was such a nightmare, so to speak. Anyway, all that to say, what was the question? Why don't you tell me how you... Because I feel like I just talked an awful lot.
No, it's okay. I mean, no, but that movie that you're talking about is Jackie Earle Haley from the Bad News Bears.
What?
Right, wasn't he in Bad News Bears?
No, I don't think he was in that.
Jackie Earle Haley?
The one that I saw?
He was Freddy Krueger.
Oh!
Pretty sure, yeah. So, because when I was renting it from the library online... it said 2010. I was like, oh fuck, that's the remake. And so I caught myself in time, but it's fucked up. Like they have the same movie title, and
it was weird.
You know, and I know. I mean, but they should. I do think, and I think most do. But if this is a remake, it should be right after the title in parentheses. 2010 and whatever year it came out. Because I agree, I almost made the same mistake. But I will say. Okay, so now. The beginning was interesting because it was like Fred Krueger, not Freddy Krueger.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I wrote that down.
In the very beginning, making the gloves.
That was dark.
Totally didn't remember that at all, but he was actually making the gloves. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, this is... Okay, so I don't remember that. And, but I absolutely remember... the long crazy arms in the dream sequence. So, but I mean, I remember it, actually, like I said before, I remembered a lot of this, but, and I've only seen it once, and that was a long, long time ago. But, what is funny is that Tina, the actress who plays Tina, is from Better Off Dead, and I just watched that at my friend Debbie's house, or at her backyard rather, and I was like, oh, that's Better Off Dead girl. So it was kind of like, in a weird way, because I identified the actress as like, you know, this movie's probably going to be fun. I just don't remember it. I was too young to find it fun because I hated horror movies. And so I'm watching it, and not so much fun. I felt like the killing of Tina... where, for the unfamiliar, if you haven't seen this movie in a while, she is being slashed in her dream, and it's being manifested in real life. So her skin is being slashed, and her skin in her sleep is ripping open, and she's moaning and flailing around. But it doesn't end there. Her body becomes completely covered in blood, and she starts flopping around on the ceiling, screaming for help.
Scraped up on the wall.
Flipping around. Her body's being beaten back and forth. Blood everywhere. Her boyfriend tries to help and gets kicked by her bloody legs and falls into the corner. He's screaming. She's screaming for help, which she's lost so much blood. How is she conscious? But it's fine. But I'm like, I can't... And I want to be very clear what I'm saying here. When I say I can't get behind this, I mean that I don't know where the entertainment value is in this scene. I can't find, like, the fun in it. Like, Freddy Krueger, because to your point, sequels later, like, I actually liked Dream Warriors because it was a fight against Freddy. So, but now this is just sadistic and cruel and hyper-violent and bloody to the point where I'm like... It's not that horror movies, not that the killing of anyone should be fun, but what we have come to identify as Freddy Krueger is like sort of these imaginative murders, these killings, and his sense of humor, like you said.
Right.
In this scene, your first introduction is neither of these things.
Right.
It is sadistic and cruel and so bloody.
Very,
and it wasn't, and I was
very gratuitous.
It's gratuitous. And I want to be clear, I wasn't grossed out, and I wasn't like, this is an affront to all women. No. I'm just saying, as a movie watcher, it did nothing. It really worked, I think, against the movie.
Yeah, and to be honest, I didn't find it extremely gross. I mean, it was like, just, I think maybe compared to standards today. I mean, it really didn't look like it was blood.
No, it didn't. I agree.
Was just,
I agree.
It definitely was stage makeup, so I didn't find it particularly gross. I didn't find it scary because he's not in the scene. It's just her being ripped apart.
Yes.
So it wasn't very scary, but I was somewhat intrigued in just seeing her kind of. It was almost like, it reminded me almost of like The Exorcist when like the body isn't there, is it? You know what I mean? It's just being taken over. So it reminded me a little bit about that.
Seen The Exorcist. I've never seen.
I've only seen bits of pieces of it. So, but that's what it kind of reminded me of, like somebody's taking over her body, and that was intriguing to me. But it wasn't scary, and it was more
her
like
screaming. Did that like? I just thought it was so much, like, and like her screams for help, and I'm like. What am I, like, oh my god, this is going on way too long.
Yeah, I was mostly, honestly, my biggest concern in that whole scene was I knew that the boyfriend would be blamed for it.
Okay.
So, that angle of it, I was like, oh my god, this guy's going to be blamed. Because he was a kind of a jerk to begin with, right? But
would only make sense if he was humanly strong enough to throw her body on the ceiling multiple times.
But you didn't. They didn't see that. Like I'm talking about, like the friends were going to blame him for this.
Oh, just hearing it without seeing the room,
hearing it and all that kind of stuff. Like that was my concern. Like he's definitely going to get blamed for this.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was an interesting opening scene. Did you happen to know before that even happened? She was having like these bad dreams, and she was telling people or friends, I'm having these bad nightmares or whatever. Did you notice like the mother coming in? Like this is like the funniest thing. I had to write it down. So she had this bad dream. She wakes up and the mother comes in and she's like, "Oh, you okay?" And she's like, "Oh, I just had a bad dream." And she looks down and her nightgown is ripped. You know, it has the 4 slashes right from the fingers or whatever. And the mom says, quote, "You get to cut your fingernails or you get to stop that kind of dreaming, one or the other," and leaves. Like, what? So you're thinking that, first of all, you think that the fingernails made those slashes, and secondly, you're telling her to stop dreaming? Like, who the hell are you? What kind of parent is this? These parents are really not good
So this is interesting. I actually am jumping all around. I actually thought the parents were Nancy's parents, the lead. Nancy's parents were actually quite rational until it is clear that there is a demonic, crazy man where she stole a hat from the dream world into the real world, and only then do they start acting like fucking morons. Like, I actually thought the parents, I was like, that is a logical step. That is a logical decision. Keep those kids separated. Yes, keep her, in the room. Don't make her go to school. They didn't want to do that. She kept it. No, wait, let me finish. So then, because they didn't want her to go to school. That was the whole thing. Because she does go to school, and they said, "This is why I didn't want you going to school." Like, so there's conversations off clearly that are not in the script, but they're referenced, even though we never saw them happen. So I was watching this, and I was like, you know what? I actually feel like for 80s movie, 80s parents, they're acting like parents. They're divorced parents. Nancy's parents are divorced or separated. And I'm like, you know what? This feels legit to me. I'm buying this dynamic and what they're putting Nancy through. I'm getting it. And then there's that scene where the mother. Oh my god, the mother.
Mother, I have a lot to say.
Holy shit, I have a lot to say, too. So the mother, I wrote it down. She wrote, so the father, who There's a movie with him.
He is in. Yeah,
he's in a million things. Christina, I think you know those things when people talk about like how they realized they were gay. Like he did a movie. It was like a space age or like sort of apocalyptic movie in the 70s, and I remember like feeling something for him. Yeah, I remember like feeling like a crush on this grown man. I had to find the movie because he was really handsome in it. But so the father says, "Bottle with something," right? And the mother very dramatically says, "I've got something better. I'm going to get her some help." And they go to the sleep lab thing.
Yes.
So, but I think, and only until Nancy pulls the hat in from the dream world, then the parents act like dipshits.
Yeah.
They barely speak. There's like shit happening all around them, and they're not even talking to their daughter.
Right.
Oh my God, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, I get it. No. So my problem with her parents is the mother.
All right.
The mother, I felt like the acting was horrible. She walked around like a robot. And it's not until, like, in the middle of the movie you realize she has a drinking problem.
Yes.
And I get that, like, so this actress is probably acting drunk the whole time, but you don't know she's a drunk
right.
until the middle of the movie.
This actress, by the way, her name is Ronnie Blakely. She was in a movie called Nashville, a Robert Altman film in 1975. She won awards. She was nominated for an Oscar for Nashville in 1975. Christina, I didn't know this then. I looked this up recently. So when I was watching the movie, I'm like, what's up with her? Is she like I swear to God, I thought this. I was like, is she like a sultry seductress, like Blanche, like she's very like come hither. Her eyes are very like sexual.
It's very like she's very made up, like a very 80s.
The hair is wild. She has tanner on, right? I mean, she has a lot of makeup on.
I think they're trying to make her look like a divorcee.
And she did,
right?
And she, even though she stood with her hips, like I'm like, I don't think this actress wants to be a mom, or the mom doesn't want to be a mom, or thought of as a mom. But
she did, definitely.
Wow, I've never seen a character like this. And
it was terrible.
You're exactly right. You find out she has a drinking problem much later, and when you think back, it makes more sense.
It makes more sense. They should have had some sort of something in the beginning if she's going to act that way.
But I thought the drinking problem happened because of Freddy. When she saw the hat, I thought because she starts hiding the bottle in that scene in the kitchen, which is one of my favorite scenes. But we'll get into that.
Yes, but then she grabs the bottle.
Yeah.
And she's like, enough! And she's like, smashes the... And I'm like, oh, she must have a drinking problem. That explains the robotic manner in which she is speaking.
And her eyes are wild.
And then her eyes are wild. Yeah. And then there's actually a scene... There's actually a scene where Heather opens up the door. I think she was saying goodnight or whatever, pretending that she was going to be asleep or whatever. And she looks, and her mother is literally standing in the hallway with a bottle of vodka, like slugging the vodka.
That's the scene I'm talking about. Her hips are like kind of like slanted.
Yeah, it's
and
weird.
She's like, and I'm like, she looks like she's ready to strip. Like, it felt it was a very awkward performance.
It was a very awkward performance.
Yeah.
So I had a big problem with her. But I felt like, I agree somewhat that obviously the end of the middle to end, these parents did not believe her at all because they felt like she was crazy.
Yeah.
That was like my biggest, that was the nightmare that nobody's believing her.
It's the nightmare. Oh my God, Christina. So, how about the fucking scene where the father, poor Nancy, she's at the end, we're jumping all around, she's screaming out the window. That fucking cop had one job. He says, the father says, stand outside my house. If Nancy needs me, come get me.
Yeah.
Oh my God, poor Nancy smashing windows. Help me.
I have him. He's here.
She says, he's here. And the cop's like, oh, jeez.
Wow, what's going on there?
What do I should do?
What's happening up there?
What did the father tell me to do again? I mean, and he's like, I guess I should tell somebody. It's like, you think this teenage girl is begging for help. So he's here, right?
And the father's just as bad.
Well,
she's like,
I'm going to defend the parents until, like I said, until that moment, until the hat. But here's the thing. But it's so ridiculous. The father runs into the house, right? They run upstairs, and within a 15-second span of time, he sees Freddy Krueger under the sheet killing the mother.
Yep.
Okay. He then pulls the cover back to reveal the mother's frying bones on the mattress. Then the mattress turns bright blue and the bones evaporate.
And then...
What does he say to Nancy when it's over?
Oh, I know he left her alone in the room.
He doesn't say a word. Christina?
God, he didn't say anything.
He doesn't say a word. She says... Now, he's standing there like with this horrified look on his face. And she's like... And he goes to kind of guide her through, and she's like, no, I have to do something first. And he's basically like, okay. He's basically like, okay.
The demons.
And he leaves the room. He has no response to that.
And he shuts the door behind him.
His ex-wife is dead. There is a spirit demon killing her under a sheet.
Yeah, that was
And then
awful.
she evaporates into a mattress.
Like, and the mattress is just like nothing ever happened.
And sure, speechless. I believe that. What I don't believe is you would let your 16-year-old daughter, or how old she is, like, just be in the room alone. Also, that is technically a crime scene and you're a cop. Do your job! Do your fucking job!
And it's not like there aren't any cops around. They're right across the street.
Oh my god. I mean,
very unrealistic.
Take a breath.
But I was so mad when she was like, Daddy, promise me, come get me in 20 minutes.
That's right.
I'm bringing him back. And I know she sounded crazy. I get that. So, but she's like, come back, keep an eye on me. I'm coming. He's going to be here in 20 minutes. Like, even if she was crazy, like, you still want to be there for your daughter. Not lock her with the bars on the window and all that.
You know she's not well and that she's scared shitless and she has all these crazy plans. Maybe, I don't know, lock the knife drawer. Maybe get her some security system. Besides bars in the windows, which I think you're locking her into her hell. I mean, it's just so...
It's so
That's what I mean. That's when it falls... That's when the parental guidance...
And she changed the locks on the door. The mother had changed the locks on the door and she's like, and here's the key, right? She's drunk on the couch. Here's the key, right here on me. So she's drunk. She has the key around her neck. Wouldn't you just grab the fucking key? It's not like she's apparently passed out. Just grab the key. You know there's going to be a murderer in the house in 20 minutes. Get the key so you can leave the building. Also, one thing, kind of nitpicky a little bit, but she's like, come get me in 20 minutes. I'm going to be, I'm bringing him back in 20 minutes. Then she sets up all of these booby traps.
Right.
In 20 minutes, really? So she's going to she has 20 minutes to do all the stuff and go to sleep and wake up. She did all those booby traps after she said, come get me in 20 minutes.
No.
Yeah. Yep, she definitely did. That's when she started setting up the booby traps.
Really?
Yep. Because I'm like, what are you doing?
No.
She had already set this up?
Are you sure?
I'm positive. I'm absolutely positive. That's when she started doing.
Wait, I thought it would take her 20 minutes in her sleep to get Freddy. That's what I thought.
Well, I think that's what she kind of indicated. She said, "Come get me in 20 minutes." You would think that she would need to go to sleep and then come out and all that. You're right. Because that's the only thing that makes sense. Because how could she get by the booby traps? Because she set them as she was getting into bed. You're right. Right. But that would take longer than 20 minutes to settle out.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Well, that fucked up thing, that was an awful lot of work with that light bulb, with the gunpowder, or whatever it was. What did she put in there?
Yeah, she thought she was like MacGyver doing this. She's like, ooh, I have a light bulb and some gunpowder.
But it really did anything. It was like pop and the fire, but it didn't even set it on fire.
Yeah, it was kind of funny that these things didn't quite work.
No.
She's no Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone, I'll tell you that much. But, I appreciated that she understood that no one was believing her. Yeah. No one was supporting her. Even her freaking boyfriend, he had one job. Mm-hmm. He had one job.
I had that same note.
Yeah. Stay awake and wake me up. One fucking job. And she was serious about it. She was like, please, you have to,
This is my note about Nancy, too, is that I didn't like Nancy until she was warrior Nancy.
Yes.
When she realized, the only one that's going to help me is me, and I have a whole fucking plan. And that's when I became really invested in this movie.
Yeah.
All over again. That was the scenes I liked. But I'll tell you, I wrote Johnny Depp.
Yes.
JD. Being a punk, she says that she's really scared. Do you remember what he said back? Ooh.
Yeah.
What a fucking dick.
He was not a good boyfriend.
Nope.
Not at all. Not at all. He had one job. Just wake her up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, come on. What else do I have here? The rhyme was always creepy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime we have little children chanting anything, it's terrifying.
Yes. It's so, yes, absolutely. I did like, so let me say some positives.
Yeah.
I liked the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say that. I did like it. It wasn't as scary as I had remembered. Just like in the others.
Yeah.
Not as scary. I think they went more for the gross aspect of it more than the scary, suspenseful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things I actually liked about it was you knew when she was in the dream. So you knew when to expect Freddy. They made it pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
She's in a nightgown. The music is different. It's feathery. It's like dreamy kind of feathery music as long, in the dark. There was that one time when we were tricked a little bit when Glenn was supposed to, we didn't know what the plan was. She's like, I have one favor for you. And she didn't tell us the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing you see is she's walking out of the house and she's in her pajamas. And you're kind of feeling like it's a dream because it kind of felt a little bit like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then she turned around and said, Glenn, are you watching? And he comes out from behind the tree. So I'm like, oh, maybe it's not a dream. So there was a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked that little bit of trickery. But for the most part, you knew when it was a dream.
And you thought that was a positive.
I did like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought there was a little bit of a little bit of a trick. And I appreciated knowing when it was a dream. Do you know what I mean? Because then it's like you know what to expect. But I did feel like it was a little inconsistent too, in that. So at the beginning, one of the first few scenes, Freddy it's a dream, and anything can happen because it's a dream. And he is popping up from here to there. And he's doing this and that. And you get the sense that he can kill her any chance. Easily just kill her when he wants to. But he's just playing with her. And he wants to torture her. And he wants to, just make her afraid. And then he's just playing with her. But further down in the movie, there were moments when she's running and he's chasing her and he's like frustrated because he can't catch her. Not in the house, not after she brings him back. But I'm like, well, aren't you magical? Like, can't you just pop up in front of her again? So I felt like that inconsistency was a little bit bothersome for me. And I also felt like in some of the parts, a lot of it, they were trying to go for the gross factor, but they didn't do it well. Like the bug coming out of the mouth, that kind of thing. And when he chops off his finger,
I have down Freddy's blood type is chicken noodle. Because he slashes his side open and it comes truly out chicken noodle soup. It is completely chicken noodle soup.
Yeah.
And because I don't like gratuitous gore and goop. I don't like goop. I don't like American Horror Story a lot of times because it's that goopy thing. But this was. Yeah, I laughed out loud with the phone. I remember the tongue.
I remembered that.
Coming out, but I didn't remember it was really the second half of the phone is a mouth.
I didn't notice that either. I remember the tongue.
I only remember the tongue thing coming out.
Did you remember what he said?
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
Yeah, I'm your boyfriend now. The tongue comes out. Oh my god! And I remember that scene so much, but I agree. I didn't remember the phone turning into the mouth.
I do want to give Nancy, the character, a lot of credit. She is a great little heroine. When she says, "Screw your past," I clapped.
Yes, she was a good
she
one.
She yells about the teacher, the hall monitor in school. She's like, "Where's your pass? Screw your past!" Oh my god, I loved it.
And then she turns kind of into Freddy. And she's no running in the hallway.
Oh yeah,
that was good.
Good.
But she was great to root for. I really liked her a lot, and she was a good actress. I thought. When she was getting attacked and she was screaming that school scene.
She's a good screamer.
Great screamer.
Oh, that was another thing. One consistent thing is the acting of Tina and Nancy. When the coming out of the dream thing, it's really done well.
Revenant, yes, definitely.
You feel that continued terror on the other side. And out of the acting was really surprisingly good with that. Can we talk about Nancy's bedroom for a second?
Sure.
Did you remember anything about it? there's a lot of, I'm sure, obviously all these things are intentional.
Trying
but it's
to think. I don't remember anything off
a lot
the top of my head.
So she has like the theater, like the clown masks on the thing.
Scary.
What do you call them? They're like the porcelain.
Yeah, they're like the
French
drama
things, but they're
drama
like
comedy.
Yeah.
And
then over her bed, she has like anyone else. She has a crucifix nailed to the ceiling.
And you remember,
well, it's like this ball.
Tina had it too. Tina had one because they both at one point in time were sleeping with a crucifix.
Oh, but hers was like she has a slanted wall above her bed and she had it nailed to the wall. Mm-hmm. And then she has a like sort of weird baby doll mask hanging on one of her lampposts, and then there's a doll right behind her that's this like weird, almost like a red like Buddha voodoo doll. It was a very weird. It had a lot of weird energy in that room.
Interesting.
And it was a little like, I don't know. It felt a little like just thrown together. I mean, I know the budget was very small in this movie.
Yes.
But yeah, she's a great screamer. What else do I have? Oh, really funny line. When Glenn, Johnny Depp, right, is sitting, I think it's him that's sitting with her, and she hadn't slept.
I know it. I have it written down.
Do you want to say the line, or do you want me to?
She's looking in the mirror, and she says,
"Oh my God, ugh, I look like I'm 20 years old."
I laughed out loud. She was
disgusted.
sincere. She was sincere. She did not want to look 20. That, yes, I have that written down here. Hilarious. Scary scenes when she was being pulled under the water. From the bathtub. Yeah. That was scary to me. That was like, holy crap. However, again, with the okay, so she's in the bathtub, she falls asleep. First of all, the hand coming up in between her legs.
Iconic. And that is, we talk a lot about 80s movies in this.
Yeah.
We don't really ever call it those scenes. That the glove coming up out of the bubble bath right between her legs. That's iconic. I mean, I feel like movie posters there's movies that have been designed, inspired by that image.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Very
And then it comes back down, and then he pulls her under the water. She's splashing up and down, over and over again, gasping for air, screaming, all this stuff, right? And then the mom comes to the door. Is everything? Oh my God! Are you okay? Are you okay? Trying to get doesn't have a key to the door. Trying to open up the door. All this stuff is going on, right? Screaming and screaming and screaming during this whole thing, right?
I know what you're gonna say. Yeah.
She opens the door, and Nancy's like, "Oh, I just slipped." Like, seriously?
Yeah, unless
she's like, "Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I was afraid that was gonna happen." Or whatever she said. She totally accepts that.
Yeah.
As an answer.
Should have been like, what? You thought you slept 17 times in a row?
For 10 minutes.
10 minutes straight. I just slipped over and over again and screamed for 10 minutes straight.
Yes.
What did I write? Mom always seems like she's performing in a cabaret show in her mind. Yeah.
I like that.
You don't need, oh my God, I can't even read my writing. You don't need a stretcher, you need a mop. Oh, when Johnny Depp dies. When Johnny Depp characters die. And this is, so, again, with the gratuitousness, I didn't, to your point, couldn't, it wasn't unwatchable. I wasn't grossed out or anything. Because it's so fake. It's like just so ridiculous looking. Fake. It's so ridiculous. It's so over the top that, it's like, and what I appreciate the movie sending cops into the scene, because like where do you even begin? And they clearly don't know where to begin, but it's like there's that line, you don't need a stretcher, you need a mop, and it was said kind of off camera, and I laughed when I heard that.
That was funny. I feel like a lot of these scenes, like specifically the Johnny Depp scene and the Tina scene, I feel like they were experimenting with different ways to do things in. Like, oh, let's film upside down and see if it looks like the blood is spraying onto the ceiling. Like, I feel like there was, like, some creative juices flowing when they were just trying different things. but it wasn't
Jesus.
super successful.
Not
maybe
always,
it was.
yeah.
Maybe it was.
Well,
back
that's the
then.
thing. In 1984, I mean, I'm saying this now like, oh, I wasn't scared, and the blood looked fake. I don't know if I felt that way at 14. Yeah. Probably not. I probably was like grossed out.
I
and,
remember being
disturbed.
terrified by this movie, so it was effective back then, I think.
What I will say, and another thing about Nancy, when she only has a couple minutes left, she fucking just jumps on Freddy Krueger. Like, and they land in the bushes together.
Yes.
I was so in love with that moment.
That was amazing. I remember that happening.
This
I love
great.
it. She had such a good plan.
Messy
she
movie.
had a great plan. She's like, I can't kill him in the dream because it's he's in control. But if I bring him into my world, then I can kill him. It was brilliant.
Great. Although, and it does, only because you just brought it up, I felt like this movie ended 3 times, and I don't think any of them were. I only thought the very, very end was the most effective.
Yeah.
I actually have a very. I'm not trying to belabor any of these points, and I know the criticism I'm going to get for even saying this out loud, but why now? Mm-hmm. Like, okay, so he killed. So you find out that Freddy Krueger lived in the neighborhood, and he killed children. Mm-hmm. He was a child murderer.
Yes.
Okay. And the townspeople got together, right? And they chased him into this thing, and they set it on fire, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We don't... How long ago did that happen?
Well, that's what I was confused about, too. It was... Because at first I was like, was it when she was a kid? But no, it was the mother who actually did this stuff. And I'm assuming it's the mother of all of her friends, too, which is why they are all targeted. It's unclear why it's now. They don't mention that.
It's unclear why it's now.
It should have been some sort of anniversary of some sort. But it was also unclear about how long ago it was. And they are obviously moms, so maybe they were infants. Maybe it was this. But maybe
they all had... What if you found out, like, that all of them had, like, a younger sibling that was murdered? Right. Like, and then it makes a little more sense. You don't, like, if the mother had said, Nancy, you're not, called drunk, but Nancy, you had a kid sister.
Right.
That we just prayed you'd forget about her because she was murdered by Freddy Krueger. Like,
or maybe it was before they even had Nancy because she's an only child.
Oh, so fuck, what am I saying? Yeah, the other way around. You're right.
Yeah,
right.
They had a baby and he was killed, and then they had Nancy.
Yeah, you had an older sister.
But there would have been 4 families that did the same thing, I suppose.
It could happen. Yeah. And parents often had 2 children, but it was like, but I think like, and it wasn't everyone. Maybe it was, who knows, but. That could have given this a little bit, just a smidge more weight, because Nancy would be like, oh my god, you killed my sister? Or, like, and, I guess it just wasn't completely well thought out, the backstory.
I feel like the backstory could have used a little bit more, and maybe, I feel like it is addressed further, like, in some of the sequels.
In the sequels, yeah.
But in this one in particular, I wish I had known when it happened, how old Nancy was when this all happened. It would have been nice for her to stumble across the stuff. Maybe an old newspaper or something. Like, kind of discover it on her own. Like, see a picture of him and be like, he's the one that's in my dream. And then have the mother go, oh my god, that's,
And that's to that very point, that's when I was like, you can tell the parents when she says, oh, and he has these long razor blade fingernails, and he wears this is his hat that he wears, and it's a straight, and you see the parents look at each other, Nancy's parents, and like, she's describing Freddy Krueger. Mm-hmm. But from that point on, it's just they check out. It's like they're not protecting their daughter in any way that makes sense for what she's talking about.
And remember, the mom had possession of this hat.
Right.
And
That's pretty compelling proof.
It said Fred Krueger inside the hat. And she was being monitored in this room. Yeah. It's not like she had a dream in her bedroom and she came up and said, look, I brought this from my dream.
Right.
They were watching her.
Yeah.
They know she didn't have that hat coming in. And she's like making excuses like, I don't know where she got that hat.
Her fucking hair turned gray. Well, in that...
I wanted to ask you about that because I noticed that too.
Well, the mother said, oh my god, look at your hair. But it was like one line and never addressed again.
Yeah. I bet it was maybe a deleted scene
or something. I think she was just the stress of it.
Yeah.
But you know what? And that's funny that you bring that up because they never showed Glenn's dream and they never showed the dream at the sleep clinic. And I don't know if that was just to save money on special effects or whatever.
Right.
But that was kind of... strange because Glenn is really kind of robbed of that sort of how he actually died.
Right. So and also, yeah, so they kind of pick and choose. So we're supposed to believe at the very end that this whole entire thing was a dream.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, because Nancy turns the power to her. So she says,
Yes.
and then he sort of evaporates as he's touching her.
He, falls into her, turns blue. And
didn't like that at all.
Wait, I didn't
Not
like that blue.
at all. It made no sense.
Made no sense at all.
Zero. Even within the what's the word? The I wouldn't say folklore. That's not the word. Even in the world of Freddy Krueger in this dream world, that move and that arrangement makes no sense because she's known it was a dream the whole time. Like she already knew what the upper hand was. She didn't realize it in that moment.
Right.
It just didn't make sense. Good.
No, it didn't. But and it's not consistent either because if we're to believe that this whole entire thing was a dream and now all of her friends are alive again and everybody's good, she's wearing the same outfit of that first scene and all that kind of crap. So how did she know about Tina's dreams? Like she's nowhere to be found in these scenes of Tina's dream. In the boiler room and all that kind of stuff at the very beginning.
Yeah.
How does that... Like, she's not seeing that, so how does she know about it? It's supposed to be her
Tina
dream.
told her.
But it's supposed to be her dream. The whole movie is supposed to be her dream. So it's just inconsistent in terms of what she's able to witness.
Oh, so I see what you're saying. I don't think the whole thing was a dream. I think when Nancy... I just thought of that as Nancy turning back the clock a little bit and saying that, like, you know, whatever happened in the dreams doesn't count anymore. Okay. And so you go back a little bit in time. That was what I took from that.
I took it as the whole entire movie was her dream.
From the start?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I didn't take it to mean that. Interesting.
Either way, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say the ending is the ending is very funny because I was laughing at the car, like basically sealing them in and stuff.
Oh, with the red and green.
Red and green, ridiculous. But I'm telling you, that fucking thing still scares me when his hand breaks through the door and pulls the mother through.
So
that is fucking scary. I have PTSD from that.
So I kind of laughed at that because I felt like it looked really
fake.
Like fake and silly.
Oh, it's so fake looking.
But
it is.
And I didn't remember it. Honest to God, I didn't remember the ending of this movie.
You didn't jolt. You weren't jolted. Even though
I jumped a little.
Fake.
Yeah, I jumped a little. But I was expecting it to. Like, I think I've been jaded in like my watching of movies in that I'm like, this obviously doesn't have a happy ending. And, but it did, you know, especially when they panned back to her waving, I'm like, oh yeah, something's going to happen to this one. So I kind of expected it, but I still jumped. Oh my God. I think that scene to you is the last scene in Friday the 13th to me. When she jumps up out of the water. Yeah. It's the same effect. Like, that scarred me for my entire life.
That's done a lot better. That scene, Friday the 13th, that scene is done much, much better than the last scene in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because it's beautifully shot. Remember how beautiful that scene is on the lake? It's peaceful.
And the cops are coming.
And that fucking kid is scary looking, jumping out of the water. I could... Yeah, but this, I think it's just the jolt, and that was very jolting, and because also it's like a mom, and it's like you
don't expect the mom.
Leave the moms.
But that was so funny. She's like, I'm not going to drink anymore. Yeah, I just don't feel like it anymore. Yeah. I'm like, oh boy, this is talk about a dream.
I do love. You mentioned it briefly, but I do love when I love Crazy Nancy when she's like, and because that scene in the kitchen between the two of them, the mother's hiding the alcohol bottle behind her, and she's like, maybe I should hang out with you, mother, get nice and loaded. Just slaps her in the face. I'm like, holy shit! Like, mom can't take a stitch of criticism.
Yeah.
I mean, like prove her wrong, mom. Don't just beat her.
Right.
Like, maybe consider you have a drinking problem. You're hiding booze.
She could potentially have a mental illness, and you're smacking her across the face.
I do have this note I wrote. I feel like the adult reactions from the teachers and the parents are fair. And then I wrote, but a cup of warm milk never helped anyone. That was so weird.
Ew, too. She's like, ew.
I know, it's like warm milk. Oh, and Carl Cott, she says, I'm going to heat you up. I'm going to heat you up some warm milk. And Carl's like, heat up warm milk? What is, like, and then Edward Nancy's a great screamer. I think that's all my notes. I have two little funny casting things. The dream doctor, the sleep analysis doctor, is the voice of Roger Rabbit. His name's Charles Fleischer.
Gosh,
and then the teacher... Remember the teacher, the when Nancy's having the dream in class?
Yeah.
She is Magda in Something About Mary. There's Something About Mary.
Oh my gosh, that's fun.
But those were...
So, I need to look... I had literally 7 pages of notes.
Let's take a little break.
So let's take a little break. We'll figure out some questions, and I'll look through and see if I have any other thing to add. I guess we'll just see. So, all right, we will be right back.
Cool.
Hey there, it's Brian and Christina. We just wanted to take this break to thank you for listening to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. Please subscribe to Old Roommates on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And give us a rating or review while you're there.
And if you have any questions, comments, or observations, shoot us an email at oldroommatespod@gmail.com. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Old Roommates. Thanks for listening, and now, back to the show. And we're back talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street, the 1984 original.
Not the 2010.
Not the 2010.
Not the 2010. You almost got that.
I didn't even ask you, did you like what you saw?
I guess it's the same as with the other horror movies. Like, it kind of, I'm a little bit disappointed because I expected it to be scarier.
Yeah.
So I don't think I liked it as much.
Is it possible to outgrow the idea of being scared by a movie?
Possibly. I mean,
I
guess it would have to. You know what?
Yeah.
I feel like it's possible to outgrow the ideas of certain movies. But think about what scares you the most as an adult. In having a movie based on that, that would be scary.
I don't really want to get too into my personal fears, but I guess I am right now. But it's like The Strangers. I have a truly horrifying fear, and it's based on. It actually is based on something. I had a situation in my childhood where I was standing by a window, watching someone break into the window standing in front of it, and oh my god, it woke me up. I was like a junior or senior in high school, and my dog was barking at this window, my dog Tiffany, and she's barking so loud, and it was a very friendly dog, and she was barking so loud she was leaving the ground, because she was this like little dog, and like, Tiffany, oh my god, and I walk over to the window, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, I pull back the blinds,
I'm getting the chills just you telling me.
I pull back the shade, and there is a, right hand to God, a red Trans Am at the end of my driveway. There's someone in the driver's seat. I can't see faces at all.
Right.
And there's a man right on the other side of the window with the screen in his hand.
Oh,
now,
God.
What really is troubling about that is that I don't know if your house growing up was like this, but there was always a way that, like, if you didn't have your key, you broke in. Because you had a lot of kids in your family.
Yes.
And same with me. So it's like, there was always that window you could just pop open and jump through if you lost your key. Because there's only so many keys to go around. We had 5 kids. So that means someone was watching one of us do that at one point on the side of the house. Mm-hmm. So, and he looked at me, I looked at him, I couldn't see his face because it was all backlit. And he slowly puts the screen on the ground, waves to me, jumps in the car, and they tear off.
That is
the scariest fucking
so freaking scary. It would have been better if he just ran. But the fact that he's like waved at you.
The scariest thing was like me, because I probably waited like 10 full seconds before I even could yell, like, for my mom or, like, to do something, because it's not like you're walking around with your cell phone in your pocket. So I'm like, I don't even know what to do. Do I call the cops? It's over. Like, what do I do? So I, like, Ma, and she's like, what? I'm like, someone just, like, tried to break into our house, and so she called the cops, but, of course, red Trans Am, blah, 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 blah. But it's the most which they can do. So home invasion is one of those fears for me. And it's based on something real. And I'll tell you that movie, The Strangers, with Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman, that movie, it's like, fuck that movie. Oh my God, it is so to your point, yeah. I don't like home invasion type shit. Like, I'll never watch that movie Funny Games that people talk about.
Right.
It's been remade and stuff, but I don't like the home invasion thing as entertainment, you know?
Right.
What's your thing?
I think it's similar. It's that, you know, coming into your own home and having something or someone and just not being able to feel safe.
Yeah.
So it's I would say probably the same thing. Yeah. It's like a home invasion.
Did you ever see that movie, The Strangers?
No.
Don't. Oh my God. It is genuinely scary. And it's a downer. Like, it's not,
But yeah, I mean, stuff like that, I think a realistic thing is more scary now than, you know, someone visiting my dreams.
100%. Yeah.
So I think it is sort of overall.
So I know you had a lot of pages of notes. Anything we didn't cover?
There's two things I wanted to mention. One of them is that weird scene between Johnny's parents. I feel like it was so out of place and weird, where they're standing on the front steps and they're looking over at Nancy's house. It was right before Johnny was killed.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know, I don't like that girl. I don't want her to be seeing, you know, it was kind of like maybe a 2-minute scene of the two of them just standing on the front steps talking about how they don't want, was mostly him, not wanting her to date him. And I don't think it was necessary. Like, they didn't need to have a conversation about that.
I remember it being like that. I do remember clocking that as like, that's strange, but also then they go in the house and because she calls. Nancy calls.
But think about that. If that scene was not there and she called and they could have had that same conversation without 100%. That conversation before.
Because it was inappropriate, like, no matter if you're crazy or not, to call it that hour. Any parent would have said
don't call back. And then in that same realm, my other second note was, number one, it was funny. It was just such an 80s thing. You can't communicate with him without the house phone.
Right.
Like, she had to call on the house phone. And that's a very 80s thing. And then him leaving it off the hook.
Yeah.
Was a very 80s thing. We used to do that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Just hang it right off the hook. And then I did notice a little later in that, a little bit further in that night, the phone worked again. Because she was on the phone with, like, her father or somebody.
Oh, because was it ripped out of the wall?
She ripped it. Oh, yeah. She ripped it out of the wall. Because she was aggravated. And she's like, oh, no.
Yeah.
But then she was able to talk to somebody on the phone after that.
Oh, weird. I didn't catch that.
So
I didn't catch it.
My only thought was maybe she had her own private line. Like, I was kind of giving her the benefit of the doubt. Because we used to do that, too. When we were in high school, we'd have our own line. But anyway, but that's all I have on my notes.
Exciting times.
You didn't answer my question. Did you like it more or less?
Well, since I wasn't super invested as a kid because I was too afraid of it. But I remembered a lot of it. Here's the truth. When it ended, Carl's like, what'd you think? And I'm like, I think I didn't like it.
Yeah.
You had mentioned something earlier about, like, they were trying new things. I really appreciated how creative this movie was, and I loved the character of Nancy trying to turn the tables. There's something proactive, and there was certainly some inventive things, but I didn't like it. I didn't really care for it back then. I didn't really care for it now. And to your point, I think Freddy as a character definitely becomes more developed as the sequels go on. But he's not that chatty, sarcastic, punny guy. Yeah,
no, that came later. And I was disappointed about that, too. I was disappointed that personality hadn't come out yet. And I'm like, oh, that's right, because that's kind of the appeal.
Yeah. It just could have been, I wish there was... I'm telling you, but that Tina scene with the blood on the ceiling, it's like, I could have done without that. That could have been about, 25 seconds shorter, and I would have probably liked the movie a little bit more for its control. Questions?
Questions.
But you said what? You liked it
I think I liked it less.
Yeah. It's a bummer because I think there's some good stuff to it, but it's just not. So I have an FMK.
Oh, wait, and I have a regular question.
Okay.
Do you want to go first? Or?
So really quick, the actor's name in the beginning when I said I think he sort of
did something for you?
For me as a small child when I was like, he's handsome. So his name's John Saxon. That's the dad. He just died. He died like in July.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But I believe the movie, because I looked at his Wikipedia, is called Battle Beyond the Stars. And I think he played a villain in that. And that's from 1980. That would make sense. That would track. Because I would have had to have rented on VHS. And it probably would have been 81, 82. So I would have been 9 or 10 years old watching John Saxon in some weird villainous getup that I was like, I like this man. Okay, so here's yours, Christina. FMK. Glenn, played by Johnny Depp. Dad, played by my friend John Saxon.
Oh, we know what he'll choose.
And Rod? Was that his name?
The other kid?
The other kid, yeah. Tina's boyfriend.
Tina's boyfriend.
So let me quickly write these down. Yep, got it.
Alright, I got it too.
Okay.
Kill Rod, F Johnny Depp, and marry Saxton.
Yes.
Yeah.
Saxon.
Saxon.
Please get it right, Christina.
Wow, he's getting all riled up over here.
My childhood imaginary lover.
Yes, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, and budget, $1.8 million, made $57 million on a $1.8 million. So you don't need a lot of money to make a really entertaining movie. I mean, of course, we're not recommending it now. Right. It doesn't quite check all the boxes. Listen, for 1984, it's all well done. I can't say it looked cheap necessarily.
No, a couple of the graphics were a little bit iffy,
like when he evaporates and then that blinking mattress.
There's a few things, yeah. If you you could tweak a couple of things, and it would be fine.
But for 84, brilliant.
84 was great.
But I just simply can't. For me as a grown up, it doesn't do much.
Yes, and it was ahead of its time, I think, back then.
Completely.
Totally different than any of the other horror movies that we have seen. All right, so my question to you is, which of the following would be your worst nightmare?
Ooh.
Would it be being dragged underwater in the bathtub?
Okay.
Being woken up and hung by your own sheet.
Okay.
Remember that happened in a jail cell.
Yeah, to Rod.
But it's already wrapped around your neck and you're just awake and seeing that it's happening and you're getting dragged up. Or experiencing all of this and having everyone just think that you're crazy and not believe you.
That's a good question.
Thank you very much.
I think I have to go with drowning in the bathtub.
I knew you would say it because you have a water thing.
I do, yeah. I mean, I love water. I love swimming and all that. And but I did fall off a raft in a whitewater rafting trip, and with other people. It was a half flip over, and it was absolutely fucking terrifying being pulled under a rapid.
I actually feel the same way. I would answer the same way. And I feel like as a child, I don't remember having a near-death experience or anything like that, but I do remember I almost have this fear. It's similar to what you're saying, but it was more of when I was a child, in a pool. We'd go into water and then try to get back up, and you'd come up underneath a raft, that somebody's in, and you can't get up, and that fear that you can't breathe. That's pretty terrifying.
Well, because the horror is you don't know it's your last breath.
Right, so I would have taken a bigger breath.
Yeah, right, absolutely, yeah. Anyway, although really quick, I just say something. I do think when all of this is over, when all the COVID madness is over, I think we should find some sort of group costume where you're the mom from Nightmare on Elm Street. Because you do such a good drunk. Christina
thank you.
Is an amazing actress, you guys, and she does really convincing drunk. And I think you'd be a great Nancy's mom.
I think I would too. I could probably do that hair too. I think I had that hairstyle in the 80s. And probably the same makeup. But,
oh my god.
And I'm sure I have an empty vodka bottle somewhere.
Okay. Well, good stuff, and happy Halloween, everybody.
Yeah,
Stay safe, wear a mask, social distance.
And hopefully you can trick or treat, but who knows? We'll see.
And that is it for us, and for this episode of Old Roommates. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Old Roommates on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And give us a rating or review while you're there, please.
If you have an idea for the show or a suggestion or comment, you can email us at oldroommatespod@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Old Roommates. This is Christina.
And this is Brian.
Thanks again for listening. Until next time.